In this lesson, I am going to be discussing how to create color in your GIMP project with our lines, and how to add color to these images. So the first thing you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure you've saved your project. So the very first step before you start adding color is to make sure your line project is saved as something different than the previous one. So we're going to go to Save As, and I'm going to change from that stage 1 complete to the stage 2 collage complete. Click Save and replace it. Then my next stage is to get myself ready to use the paint bucket. I have to move all of my lines onto a single layer. So there's a couple different ways to do this in GIMP. One is to make sure that your top layer is clicked, and then go up to Layers, and then we'll merge down. And what this is going to do is it's going to combine the layers of the imagery that is visible into one image. So now if I have these two visible, then I would go to Layers, Merge Down. And now if I click on this, all of that is now one layer instead of all those separate different layers. We kept them separate just to help you get a sense of how it works. But one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have that photo base be visible, because we don't want those photographs to be part of our finished one. We just want this line work image. There is another option under Image, and then it is to merge the visible layers. One thing you want to make sure that you don't do is you don't do that while the background is on. We don't want that background to be part of this. We just want those lines. So you're welcome to use that image, merge visible layers, as long as your photographs and your background are both turned off. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Then we click Merge, and so now you see all of these are one layer. My photo base and my background is still visible as separate layers, which is good. So by the way, this option that I'm working with is in Layers, and these are under Windows, Dockable Dialogues. We're going to need Layers today. We're going to need Tool Options. We're going to need to make sure our toolbox is available, as well as, more than likely, our undo history and our navigation. So now that I have all of my lines as one single set, I'm ready to start using my paint bucket to start filling it with my color scheme. One thing you want to make sure that you do before you start any color is that you have actually chosen a color scheme. So the best way to do that is to click on your color picker, which is this tool here, and you will see that there are a number of different color picking tools in GIMP, and you're welcome to use any of these tools. This is really up to you. But your first job is to choose the colors that you want to work with today. So I'm going to walk through choosing a new color scheme. Now, the color scheme that I had done before with this, with the video that didn't work, was an analogous color scheme. So colors that were next to each other on the color wheel, red, orange, and yellow, and then tints and shades of those. But today I'm going to choose a different color scheme. I'm going to do a complementary color scheme. So I'm going to choose blue and orange as my complementary colors. So I'm going to choose a couple different blues and a couple different oranges to have as my color complements. So I'm going to select first in this bar here, which gives me the hue, and then select in this section here, which can give me the intensity of the hue that I'm choosing. So we want to make sure we always have black as part of our color scheme, because that's what we have for our lines. So I'm going to click Next on that. Click another blue, and another blue, and another blue, another blue, and another blue. Okay, and then I'm going to click some oranges. So I'm going to go over to my orange that I like. There we go. I'm going to have just a bright orange and a few other oranges to work with. And you'll notice that oranges kind of look brown if you get into kind of this mixed gray area, which is kind of interesting. But one thing you want to make sure that you do or don't do is you don't want to lose your black. So when you've clicked, this is kind of the limit of your color schemes for this method of doing this project. So you can choose your colors in this section, and this will kind of give you your colors to work with. And then when you're happy with it, click OK. Now I am going to start starting to fill my colors. So I'm going to make sure that I'm working with the color I want to work with first, and I'm actually going to choose this kind of brownish orange, and I'm going to start filling in my rabbit. Now you'll notice when I first click this, it's going to fill in everything up to a certain point, and depending on your options, it may fill in more than what you intend or less than what you intend. So if it does too much, go to your undo history and click undo the next level up, or use on your keyboard Control or Edit Z, sorry, Command Z if you're on a Mac. And then we're going to do some adjustments of our tool options with our paint bucket. So make sure your paint bucket is selected, and then come over here and in the tool options tab, we want to scroll down and we want to always make sure our opacity is changed. We are going to fill similar colors, and we are going to choose a threshold. So if we have a really super low threshold, like let's say a 10, sometimes it's easier just to type the numbers. What you'll notice is that you've got this halo or this gap around your lines. Oh, I forgot a really important step. Uh-oh, hold on. I'll finish talking about this and I'll go back. You'll notice this really big gap around your lines. And you want to make sure that you don't have that gap because it doesn't look very realistic. It looks like you're using a paint bucket. It doesn't look very nice. So you want a medium to high threshold. This number should be a little higher. Maybe 150 was too much. I'm going to do like 85. See how that goes. But I am going to undo right now because there's one more step we need to do before we can start using the paint bucket, and that is to make a backup of our lines. We need to make sure these lines are still visible at the end of this project, and so there's a really super easy way to do this. So my lines are here, they're visible right now, and I have a backup. So right now I'm going to click Create a Duplicate or a Copy, and we're going to call this the Lines Backup Copy. Okay. Click. And now you'll see that these lines are on both. And when they're both on, the lines seem thicker. Right now I'm going to make those invisible. And I'm going to go back to this layer, and I'm going to change my line to being my color fill. Okay? Now I'm ready to add color. So now I can select my color, select my paint bucket, and I can start filling. And you'll notice that it will be much, much closer to those lines that I drew. But there might still be a halo here. So you might have to play around with this number a little bit, and because there is a balance between your threshold and the amount of work that it'll do. So there is a balance here between this color and bleeding over into the next section. Because we don't want it to go outside of the place where we gave it its boundaries. That 85 might be my location of where I am, which is okay. You can have different levels for different sections of your image if you need to. 85, seemed like we got it. Okay, good. So this is where kind of I had talked about being careful, and something like that might happen too, where you click on your lines accidentally instead of your imagery, and so all of your lines in the whole picture have changed. Of course, we want to leave those lines black if we can, so undo anything like that that might happen. If you get close and make sure that your paint bucket little cursor is right in the center of the space, you will get a nice clean selection, or as close as you can. All right, so I'm going to go through this image and I'm going to start painting. I might choose to have to pay attention to where I had drawn those highlight and lowlight lines and use my colors appropriately in those spaces. Again, being careful with where I'm putting my cursor and which things I'm clicking on. So making our lovely image using just the color scheme that you chose. So in this case, I had chosen complementary colors, so I'm only going to be using tints and shades of orange and blue, including a background. So I'm going through and I'm clicking. Now you'll notice that I'm having a little trouble here because I'm so far away and those spaces are small. So I need to get close and click, and close and click. And you may decide that you need to get even closer than what you think. So spend a little time and paint those areas. And just as an example, threshold, you just want to make sure you're not too high either. Not only will you fill in lots of space, but if it's too high, it'll just fill in the whole entire picture, which really isn't that helpful. So as you're messing around these numbers, be thoughtful to yourself and make it look good, but also make it make sense. The very last stage when you are done would be to go to your background and choosing one of your colors, fill in that color in the background. But I recommend that you wait to do that until the very end. If you do it too early, it's going to look, it's going to be really hard to fill in your other colors and have it still look nice. So I wouldn't do that until you are just about done with your project. The white background is easier to work with than having a colored background to start with. All right, that's just about everything you need to know. Happy coloring.